What do you get when you mix a health coach and a wellness coach mixed with a lot of curiosity? You get two people who ask a lot of questions about health and wellness. Today we ask, how do we get rid of past hurts?
Today we interview William O'Boyle, or as we call him, Bill, a licensed professional clinical counselor. So let's get started as we ask.
Wait, what?
Hi, Leah.
Hi, Kamna. All right.
Hi, Bill.
Hi, Bill.
Hi, Leah.
I am switching between screens, so I'm like going to lose my mind in a minute. So let me introduce Mr. Well, we call you Mr. Bill in my family. So I'm going to introduce Mr. Bill.
Okay,
And then I can figure out which screen I'm really on. How about that?
Perfect.
All right. Bill is a licensed professional clinical counselor, and he's been a therapist for more than 25 years, working with adults, couples, families, children, and with a wide variety of presenting problems. He's done parenting seminars, divorce seminars, and worked with families and children with various types of trauma. He has also worked with individuals with severe mental illness and adolescents with severe behavior problems, and he is trained in acceptance and commitment therapy, ACT, and which is also called that, and a motivational interviewing and strategic family therapy. So you have quite a resume, Bill.
okay. Thank you.
Yeah, we're excited to talk to you.
How long have you been practicing? I know she said it, but
Well, the 25 years is actually a little sparse. It's actually probably more than 35. I had retired about 15 years ago because I had had some pretty serious medical problems. And during that time, I had taken care of various family members, an uncle, my wife's parents. I was their primary caregiver in their last days. So I did that for about 10 years, and then I overcame my medical issues. And then subsequent to COVID, I became inspired and decided to come out of retirement and open my own practice. And I've been doing that for about 2 years now. I was also working at a practice in Hudson. I'm no longer there because my practice has taken root here in Solon, I should say. So I'm pleased that I'm busy and it's going very well.
I'm so intrigued. You were retired.
Yes.
Were you, I don't know, this is going to sound weird. Were you bored, or were you just had an itch to do something different or more?
I had had a couple of some major medical issues, very, very serious medical issues, which kind of led to my retirement in around 2011.
Okay, so you had to retire early.
Yes, and then it just sort of happened that the family members got sick. I started to feel better. I was in good enough shape to be able to take care of them, and so that was my path for 10 years. And then I just became, then I guess you could say after that I became somewhat bored and was looking for meaning and wanted to do something that would, and COVID kind of inspired that in me, and I was feeling much better. So I thought, why not try this? I've got a lot of experience and maybe I can put it to use.
do you think that pre and post COVID problems look different? Or are they the same?
Boy, that's a tough question because I had been out of it for about 10 years. I think, from the standpoint of mental health, I think the way us therapists try to view problems now, instead of, back in the day, we used to focus on anxiety and depression and PTSD, but ultimately it's the psychological, inflexibility. We become inflexible. And for example, if somebody's really depressed, if they were to come into my office, my goal might be to try to get them to be less depressed. And that was sort of discovered that doesn't necessarily work unless you get somebody motivated to at least be able to move in the direction of valued behavior at the same time. Just trying to work on the depression in and of itself doesn't work. You have to identify what are their values, what's important to them, and get them to behave in those kinds of ways simultaneously while you're sort of treating the depression. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Do you think that's changed before or after COVID though, or is it all pretty much essentially the same?
I'm not really sure because again, I hadn't been seeing clients for many years before that, so I'm not sure how to respond.
No, that's fine.
It all seems like this is same to me. It seems like the same process. The content is different. the
Hmm.
problems change. But the
Oh,
problem to me are very similar, regardless of what the content is.
Makes sense.
yeah.
It's the process
Definitely.
we need to engage in that makes all the difference.
Wow.
So it sounds like you see all ages.
I see very few kids. I think the youngest one I have is, I think, 16.
Hmm.
I've kind of gotten out of the kid market. As I got older and have my own kids and grandkids, and now I'm starting to. I guess I'm getting a lot of seniors that are coming my way because of my age, and
Mhm.
I have a lot of couples in their late 20s, early 30s. I'm getting all kinds. Actually, it's really kind of been surprising. I thought my age would be a deterrent coming back into this, but it turned out it's been actually kind of enhanced my status. I get respected when they walk through the door, it seems, and I guess my age doesn't deter that at all. So
Yeah.
it seems like it's an asset. I'm looked at as having some wisdom, or at least
Yeah.
initially, until they talk to me, then they realize that that's not true.
No.
I think that's a really good point, though, overall, that we think after we retire, we're just done. But maybe
Uh-huh.
we're not. Maybe there's something
Uh-huh.
else waiting around the
Uh-huh.
corner.
Mhm.
I think this is the I think I'm much more effective as a therapist now than I was 30 years ago. There's no question in my mind.
Really?
If I ask my clients that, they will say the same. And I can probably cite now, is this one improved? Is this one improved? And the answer is yes. I don't know that I could have said that. I mean, this is a tricky business because you think about it. If you're going to get your car, fixed, you've got a tangible result, and you can see
Hmm.
what those results are. But I kind of get paid for trying, and that's kind of you know, I take that seriously because I mean, there's no guarantees that somebody's going to be helped. So it's
Yeah.
really humbling to
Right.
know that, we're kind of getting paid just for our efforts, and there better
Yeah.
be some sort of a value in that whole thing. So it
But
sort of
don't you think there's
motivates
a
me.
great power in people talking out the stuff in their head and saying it out loud?
Without a doubt. And I've been told that my gift, if you will, is, and that sounds, cocky. I don't like the way that sounds, but that listening and just presence and being with and having them articulate. I've had clients say that, oh, no, boy, it feels really good to be able to get that whole thing out. I haven't really
Mhm.
told that to anyone.
Hmm.
And what really surprises me is that some clients come in there and they are so bereft from emotional support. I mean, even the people that are into their lives in the most intimate ways, they're really not connected that way. They're really not feeling heard, understood, and listened to. So yes, the absolute basis for doing the work to have any sort of positive impact is the listening and the presence and just being with the
Yeah.
client. I think that's the biggest variable. I think
Would you
that's what the research says, that it's the relationship between the client and the therapist that is the biggest determiner of the outcome.
Oh.
So yes, where they tried to
So
identify all the variables, and that is the one that makes a difference. It's how connected, how you feel about the therapist, the relationship that you have.
so it's not just the fact that I'm opening up and telling you all of my secrets, it's that I have some sort of connection with you as, somebody I can trust or somebody I rely on or, all of those things.
Hmm. Hmm.
That's important too.
Yes, I think it's sort of, the validation that comes from all of that, sort
Yeah.
of bearing witness to somebody's life. If you're telling me your life story, and it's obviously your life story, so it's intimate to you, and it's the one you have, that's sort of sacred ground. And I think if
Yeah.
that's received that way and it comes across as, that type of validation, I think is really the absolute beginning of a
Yeah.
of getting results in therapy. And I
Yeah.
think they
Leah,
sometimes happen right away.
Yeah.
Leah and I are big proponents of getting therapy and working on mental health. We are
Mhm.
really big on that. Do you think that more people should be in therapy?
Boy, it's I
Oh,
think everyone could be in therapy because
I
Hmm.
because I think we're looking for another set of eyes in a way.
yeah.
We're looking at ourselves and to get another. I think that's the idea of relationship in general. You get another set of eyes, you get a chance to grow, and you get a chance to process things, and you get a chance to interact. So I think that anyone can benefit from therapy if they're open to shining the spotlight on themselves and willing to, really willing to put their stuff out there.
Yeah.
There's a principle in quantum physics. It's called the Heisenberg principle. And the Heisenberg principle says that when you pay attention to a phenomenon, just that attention alone has the probability of influencing it in a positive way. So that means if somebody just comes to therapy and they're looking at the problem, that in and of itself, that their intent is to look at that, has a positive influence on the outcome. It's pretty interesting stuff.
Really?
So if you relate this to therapy, you're saying that if you happen to be in therapy with a good connected person, like you have a good connection with them, and you're just talking through some of the issues, that in itself can be healing.
Yes. Yes.
Wow.
And that would be similar to somebody saying, I'm feeling good that I just got this out. That's
Right.
that's
Right.
paying attention to the phenomena and
Yeah.
being able to articulate it in real time. So I think those are both the same in a sense.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right. Should we jump into where we want to
Yeah.
go?
All of our millions of questions we have. Okay.
Okay.
I'm going to give you an example from right now. I've told this story on here, I don't know, coming up one of our first episodes.
Okay.
Somebody once told me that my hair, when I did my hair dark one time, like I'm pretty light, and I did it dark. I did it dark because honestly, it's so expensive to stay light. It is. It costs a lot of money. And I remember doing it dark and it was all brown and I kind of liked it. I thought it was kind of pretty. And this guy said to me, "What did you do to your hair?" And I said, "Oh, why, you don't like it?" And he said something else. And I said, "Well, I was trying to save some money." And he said, "Well, splurge from now on. It looks terrible on you." I mean, in a nutshell. But every time I want to go back to that, to like, oh, should I go dark again? I always think of that guy. Like always. Some random guy that meant nothing to me. He was just, you know what I mean? Like, so Kamna and I started talking about like when somebody says something to you and it stays with you. I mean, this had it. I think my daughter was 3 and she's 13 now. So like 10 years ago. And I've still never gotten over this.
The word that I used to hear was, "You're very healthy," and your brother and your sister are very athletic. And healthy was not in a good way. It was you're round and chubby, and
Yeah.
it rattles around in your head and it impacts so much, I think, down the road.
Yeah.
Can you speak on that a little bit?
Well, I think in Leah's situation with with the criticism that she received from the unwelcome criticism from this gentleman that's kind of been lingering. I think what we need to do is sort of shine the spotlight of awareness on and evaluate that statement. And I think that's what we do. You hear that this doesn't look good and you hear it in this insulting way. And then you have to really evaluate, okay, does this look good or does it not look good? And if you realize that you agree with what they're saying, then I guess the trauma the trauma would have to be that you have a difference of opinion, that you liked the way it looked, or minimally you thought it was at least acceptable, and you felt insulted by that. So I think you have to evaluate what you're hearing in terms of the accuracy. Does it come across as what I call a grounded assessment? Is it, if you lined up 100 people, would they make that comment to you about that, Leah? And my guess is probably not.
Interesting.
So I think when you then decide that this is an ungrounded assessment, and then you decide, well, then they own it. It's on them, and that's how you're able to let go of it. That's their opinion. Then we're able to let go. And
is like I'm looking at it and just looking at that one person that's telling me it, right?
Yes. And you're fused to that thought. That's what acceptance commitment therapy would talk about. You identify that now. So you have this thought that I don't look good, or this person is telling me that I don't look good, and we take that as as literal truth. You know, we believe all of our thoughts, but thoughts are like the clouds that kind of come and go. And acceptance and commitment therapy uses that metaphor that, you know, we have thoughts and feelings. We are, but we are not our thoughts and our feelings. And that's an important distinction, because I always use the example of, have you had the experience of a song playing in your head that you haven't heard in 25 years?
Yeah.
Have you, everybody's had that,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Yes.
And the question is, and this sounds almost silly, but where does that come from? And the answer is, you don't know, I don't know, and Leah doesn't know, correct? I mean,
Right.
Right.
about that. The thought pops into our head. That's pretty mysterious stuff. That's pretty profound. Where does that come from? We have no idea where that comes from. Well, in quantum physics, they would say that it's coming from a thought field, okay? And that we are sort of attracted to these different thought fields based on our emotional level. Now,
Wait, you might have to dumb that down for me.
yeah, I'm getting a little over my
Dumb this
own
down for me,
here.
because I'm attracted to people.
Yeah, no, I think let me scale that back a little bit. It's coming from a thought field that we
Yeah.
really that's really a mystery in a way. We really don't understand where that's coming from. So we're not creating that thought, and that is the point. So the point is that most thoughts, unless we're focusing our attention, like I'm doing right now,
Right.
so I'm articulating thoughtfully and with awareness, but more often than not, and I think they did some research on this, like 60 or 70% of thoughts are just recycled thoughts that are popping into our head all the time. So the question is, how do we not allow those to influence our behavior or make us feel bad?
Right.
And that's where diffusion comes in terms of understanding that you can relate to thoughts differently, that these are thoughts you're having. And one of the gifts of mindfulness, and I don't want to use the word meditation because that has sort of a religious connotation, but mindfulness, which is just being aware and paying attention to our thoughts non-judgmentally. Well, the skill is to start looking at thoughts as just thoughts. So I'm sort of and the thinking is to imagine yourself as sort of a witness observer. And if you're sitting in silence and your goal is to watch your thoughts and your feelings, and it's sort of like you're watching a movie, and the movie is your internal, what's going on in you, you know, your thoughts and feelings. And that's part of the skill of being able to mindfulness, is to be able to start noticing what's going on in our interior in a way now that we start to pay attention to it, and then we can be more mindful and choiceful and behave differently when we realize that this is something that we need to sort of grab onto.
Can I rewind for a minute?
Sure.
Yeah.
Because even I think I understand where you're going in terms of changing our thoughts, but in the moment when you're with somebody, whether it's a family member or you as a child have dealt with somebody, even a stranger or as an adult, people will say these things and they leave a mark. What is that initial? Why does it hurt initially? If we don't care about what this person is, it's a random person like Leah's story, or
Yeah.
somebody just said something and we know inherently that maybe it's not true. Why does that initially hurt so deeply?
Because it's inconsistent with the way we see ourselves.
Okay.
That would be
Oh.
sort of an insult. Our own self take or our self view is incongruent with what we're hearing. So if we have a positive image of what we look like with that hairdo, to use that
Yeah.
hairdo, I'm dating myself, huh?
No, you're good.
then it comes across as you know, incongruent, and it feels bad because we have a vision of ourselves that is very different from that. So the mismatch in that initially causes some of that, and then we have to again shine the spotlight of awareness on it and then evaluate whether that's true or not. And that's one element, but the other is that you're being insulted by someone, and then you have to deal with that too. So you're hearing
Okay.
negative feedback from someone presumably that you care about, or even, um, and then you have to negotiate that because your relationship is on the line now. I presume
Yeah.
if somebody's insulting you, then that sets up a whole dynamic that you ideally want to deal with and be able to talk about and give feedback that really hurts. It really, I didn't appreciate that you said that, and then you have that whole negotiation that comes along with that. So the relationship could, whatever that relationship is, and again, if it's a stranger who has no impact, then likely you're going to attribute it to just that.
So now I think all strangers are thinking that of me. You know
Well,
what I mean?
then
I
you
don't know if
must
I
think that you must believe, you must have a sense of belief in what you heard.
I
At some
know.
level, it's resonating with you, and you're saying to yourself, I guess I really don't look okay this way.
Do you think that way about you, Kamna? That you look healthy?
I don't know. I think I've let go of that one because I've been working on that. I mean, it did when that was said to me, it impacted me in a very, very negative way, and it did things that I probably shouldn't have done. But then I think I've healed myself in quotes. But the one thing you were saying, which sort of sparked an idea in my head, is let's just keep going with Leah's example because I know she loves talking about this so much. But if she is doing her hair to make herself presentable to the world, right? She's looking
Okay.
outward. She's
Mhm.
wanting to carry on a professional or a good persona to the outside world. And when someone makes an insult like that, it turns the focus back inward. So you
Mhm.
kind of become disconnected with the people you're trying to connect with. Does that
Yes.
Mm.
does that
No.
That's that you just got deep on me.
I know, I do that. I'm sorry.
It's a gift, huh?
Yes.
Yeah.
So you're
I just
saying, like, I feel like I couldn't connect with them?
No, I think instead of the spotlight being outwards, because you're
Oh,
wanting
yeah.
to have your energy out and connect and mingle and socialize and be
Mhm.
professional in a different arena.
Mhm.
And then
Mhm.
suddenly this person say, no, you need to go back to square one because you're not cutting it.
Mm.
Even
Mhm.
if it's just like about your hair.
Yeah.
So I think your point is that it causes a much larger problem. Now she's withdrawing from social contact,
Yes.
and so
Yes.
now she's got a relationship issue. She's resolved. Yes. So the whole thing sort of steamrolls,
Yeah.
and it can
Yes.
do that. And I guess that's where you have to do the work of, is this true?
Right.
I mean, if 100 people lined up and 95 of them said that I was ugly, I would have to think that maybe there's some truth in that, and maybe I'm
Right.
just going to have to live with it. So, how accurate is that assessment? But more often than not, people have these, opinions that are, and we can attribute, the veracity or not to who
Mhm.
it's coming from. I think we have to look at the source, and
Yeah.
that's what we have to really look at, and that's part of the healing. If the source is someone who's really close to us,
Hmm.
and then it hurts more, obviously,
Yeah.
and it's a
I would have
deeper wound. But if it's someone who's just some kind of a bystander or something like that, then you chalk it up to just somebody being,
right.
nasty or whatever. You have to really evaluate that.
It sounds like it's a lot more work to do
Yes.
all of the growth work. Do you know what I mean? Like, this sounds terrible, but it sounds like it's a lot of work to get past something. Does that make sense? Like, no matter what it is, no matter what somebody says to you, no matter how you feel about it, to grow from it and to get past it and move on, it sounds like it takes somebody a lot of work, which is probably why people don't do it.
Yes. Yes. That's
Right?
that's exactly correct.
It's why
But
people don't. It's
Well,
like,
this leads me to another question. I've probably given Leah 100 compliments, let's just say, and the one thing that I say that's negative, she's gonna hyperfixate. Well,
yes,
maybe she will hyperfixate on that and not remember any of the positive things.
you're
So
right.
why
Why do we do that?
why can we not
Yeah.
balance the good and the bad?
Boy, that's a tough one. I'm not.
Ah, so
I'm not.
true.
It's really, yeah, it is true. Why do we go to that and dismiss?
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
only focus on, and that's where mindfulness comes in, where we have to really start thinking about, how
Mhm.
to evaluate that whole thing.
So what do you mean when you say mindfulness
Oh,
in
good
this
question.
Mindfulness
arena?
is paying attention to what's going on in your body, literally
Okay.
thoughts, feelings, sensations, on purpose. This is, I guess, John Kabat-Zinn's, who's the sort of the guru of mindfulness, his definition. Paying attention in present time, on purpose, and the key part is non-judgmentally. So if we're looking at, let's say strategically you decide you're going to look at this issue of this guy coming in and saying this nasty thing to you.
Okay.
And you actually kind of, bring it up to look at, let's say you're meditating and you actually kind of, conjure up this feeling and that whole thing, and you're noticing it. So the first step would be to kind of diffuse from noticing those thoughts as that they're literally true. You're having the thought that you feel, the thought that you don't look good, and you feel bad because you heard that thought.
So you almost have to go back, like relive the
can.
situation?
You can. It's you don't have to, but if you want to just look at that in context, that's a specific kind of a hurt, so to speak.
Right.
If you're going to look at it, you can look at it in context, and you can almost kind of start paying attention to that reoccurring in a way where you sort of notice it, and all of a sudden you don't attach the feeling of dismay or whatever, where you start to realize this is going on in my body, but it's sort of, I'm just noticing it, and I'm not going to feel bad. It's sort of like you're not conjuring up the meta emotions, which are the emotions about the emotions. I'm having this and I feel bad about
And
it.
people can do that? I don't know if I could do that.
It takes it takes practice.
Yeah,
And
I really
when
don't
it
So
know if I
wait,
could do
I
that.
just want to repeat what you're saying so I can make sure I understand. You're saying to put yourself in a place to relax, to put yourself back in that emotional state of this comment,
Yes,
but
that's an option.
to sort of remove the emotion and look at it objectively, like this person is being insulting for no reason, and
Yes.
let me play that out that way.
Yes, and you just kind of notice it, and you're kind of being with it. You're not trying to get rid of it, which is really the sort of the paradox about all this. When we try to get rid of emotions and feelings, we tend to have them more. And
Wow.
that's where we, because they're not
Oh,
logical. It's not
Oh.
logical. It's not logical. Think about it. Try not to think of a pink elephant. You think of a pink elephant.
Wait, so when we try and get rid of a thought, we think of it more.
It has a tendency to
I
actually
believe that.
enhance it. Yes. I mean, think, yes, doesn't that make some intuitive sense?
Yes.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
I
So
had
so
this.
I gotta
so
write that
becoming
down.
familiar with our interior is a way of sort of detaching the emotionality.
Yes.
We're
Yeah.
sort of playing the movie over again. We're watching it as the observer, and we're noticing it, and sort of with repetition it doesn't have the same effect, where we start to notice it as just an experience. It was just they're just words. They don't have the meaning, and they don't engender the feelings that they initially did. And
Wow.
that's one way to try to, and that can be done in therapy with a specific issue.
Yeah.
You focus on it, and you're not really trying, you're allowing. And that's the key point.
Oh.
You're not trying to get rid of anything. You're noticing it. It's going to come up. You pay attention to it. And just that attention has a tendency to minimize the probability that it's going to continue. It kind of reduces the probability potential in a way,
That's a
if that
I
makes
I have an analogy. Maybe this is not
okay.
right.
Okay.
Go
This
for
is
it.
nothing that
I love
popped
your
in my
analogies.
head.
Go on.
No, it's sorry, a real life situation. But if I'm talking to my husband and he keeps saying to me, "You keep talking about this. You keep bringing it up. Why are you still talking about this?" Is that
This is a
saying?
hypothetically, this is what's happening, right?
Uh-huh.
Go on.
That's
He's
not
like,
hypothetical.
why are you stuck there? Why can't you get past it? So if what you're saying is, if we're not allowed to process through, we can't process.
Well, I'm not understanding your analogy related to where we just were.
It was
So
a
your
sort of
husband, that's
Yeah.
okay. Your husband says, He says, you keep bringing this up.
Like
The
if we're
same
having
thing.
a discussion about an issue and I can't let something go, for example, and I want to process through it, like
Okay,
you're saying, we need to process through the emotions and sort of detach and be able to express it all the way through. If
okay.
any person is not allowed to do that,
Mhm.
I would presume that they get stuck.
Yes, but you're in the context of what you just articulated.
I went on a different topic. Yes,
No,
I'm
no, no,
sorry.
no, it's a good one because what you're talking about now demands a resolution in real time with your significant other. So now
Mhm.
Oh,
you have an issue between them. So if you want to resolve that, you're probably not going to go into silence and mindfulness to do that. You're going to need to discuss it with them. And it'll
Okay.
be something,
okay.
and there'll be a
Okay.
negotiation as to then that takes us into the interpersonal resolution. It's no
That's a
longer an
separate
Oh.
individual
topic.
issue.
Boy,
Okay.
did you do that to segue into the next topic here? Look at our good
Yeah,
stuff.
sure I
However,
did.
I imagine you could do the mindfulness on that exact same situation, Kamna, if you were like going through everything after like the argument or before the argument about something. So it
Mhm.
doesn't keep coming up in a conversation, right? I imagine.
I think that means she's got this is unresolved. She hasn't felt heard and understood by him. And
Mm,
that's the critical piece. That's very specific. And I think there's a need that you have that needs to be addressed with him. And the way he responds to that and the way that need gets addressed is critical to you resolving that individually. And it also becomes by definition, because you're bringing it up to him, it's an issue in the relationship that
yeah.
needs to get looked at. So the
Okay. There's
resolution,
too much
how do you
spotlight
resolve
on
that?
me. Let's talk about something else.
You
I
know,
think it can apply to anybody though. If you have I know I shifted away from the mindfulness piece which you were talking about, but it also is true in relationships is some of those patterns keep showing up. If you then
yes.
retreat, if you don't engage or if you're overzealous
Mhm.
in explanation, some of those patterns I would suspect just keep repeating in your life.
Yes, yes. There has the goal when somebody comes to me for couples therapy, there's always a disconnect. And somehow we have to find a way to reconnect. And that
Mhm.
that involves communication, working through that, the ability to resolve conflict. That's always a big deal. You know, how to,
Mhm.
that's where we get stuck. It doesn't get resolved. So then we both kind of isolate and there's silence and quiet and it's sort of a cold war that can go on for 24 hours or sometimes even longer. Some couples
Yeah.
do that for
Okay, so I have a question that connects the two topics.
sure.
Okay.
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 So if you have a childhood hurt, right? You've experienced something or someone said something to you, and that issue shows up in your relationship. Is there a way to work through it in therapy that the thing, like if this is not my example, but if you were ignored or if you were
As a
left out,
child.
yes,
And now you feel ignored now as a spouse.
right.
Mhm.
Mm.
Well, I think you would want to sort of ingrain it in the relationship. And obviously, if you were ignored as a child and it's a significant wound, that's likely something that you would have, if you're in a relationship that's supportive and fulfilling, that's something you likely would have already discussed, and your significant other would know that about you. So they would be
Okay.
sensitive to you in regard to that issue. So when they're ignoring you, they then should know at that point that this is what's happening. You have to bring that up respectfully. Right now you're not paying any attention to me. I'm getting a little disillusioned by that, or whatever that might be on your
Hmm.
end. But yes, it becomes activated by a similar experience in real time, and it can be very helpful to cite your wound if you have someone on the other end who's going to be compassionate and that's going to actually help them be more
Mm.
compassionate towards you. If it's possible that they might respond with, well, that was in the past, deal with it, and I'm not doing
Right.
that right now.
Yeah,
That's not happening right now. And
right.
that's where the art of communication and negotiation comes in. And because that could go down the wrong channels.
Yeah.
It's
I
like,
can see where that would,
yeah,
you
deal with
know?
it. Deal with it. That's your problem. I'm not doing that right now. So they might deny that they're doing that. So, and
Right.
then what do you do in that case? Now you've got a whole different set of issues, if depending on what sort of
Right.
response you get.
Right.
It definitely becomes an interpersonal issue of magnitude.
Let's let's say you've done the mindfulness work to be able to deal with some of those hurts from previous years. What happens when that issue gets triggered again? Can that mindfulness help mitigate some of the reaction that happens?
Yes, because I think with mindfulness practice, and the key is to practice,
Okay.
just to
Oh,
do. I mean, that's what the great sort of spiritual wizards will talk about. Just do. You don't evaluate your practice. You do it regularly, and you don't compromise. And you start by doing it maybe 5 minutes a day, twice a day. And then if it's working for you, you build yourself up with more tolerance. I do it twice a day for 20 minutes, and it seems to keep me kind of focused where I'm kind of, I don't want to say chill. That's not a very sophisticated word, but I'm
We're
kind of
not very
I'm
sophisticated,
kind of
so you can say
relaxed and
chill.
kind of, yeah, I guess I'm kind of I become comfortable with my interior, and the thoughts I have don't have.
So when you say you practice mindfulness twice a day,
Mhm.
do you mean like you are thinking about just everything or
Yes,
what does that mean?
I sit and I pay attention to my breath. I
Okay.
literally sit, and so so the practice is, whatever I'm going to have all these thoughts. I'm literally going to have thoughts. Right?
Okay.
Those thoughts are going to come. I'm not controlling any of those. And that's kind of the mystery. And I'm allowing that. And I'm noticing it. I'm paying attention. So I'm kind of watching what those thoughts are, and I'm kind of watching the feelings, and I'm paying attention. And I'm getting to be familiar with my internal workings, so to speak. It's sort of like, you know, the parallel to, we're taught education about the world. Well, this is, nobody really teaches us about our bodies, like what goes on
Right.
in our bodies, and thoughts and feelings are in our bodies, and they determine a lot of what. So you have to be sort of inspired to want to grow and to become, more mindful and more self-aware. And by doing that, by practicing, you literally do become more self-aware, and you become better able to notice feelings where you can grab, and that feeling might have taken you down a rabbit hole before, but now you're able to catch it, and you're able to sort of stop it and shift your attention in a different direction. Does
Oh,
that make sense?
yes. I think I've
wow.
been doing this a little bit, not as
You have?
I think so because anyway, I don't want to keep talking about me,
No,
but
I do for a second. What do you mean? You've been holding out on me. You haven't told me you've been doing this.
no,
The-
I
the-
mean
okay. I'm getting
I
a
used
kick
to
out of
be a
it too.
very angry person and I would be very reactive. And I think I've been sort of training myself in the explanation you're giving of being present, of being detaching
Presence.
from that
Oh, I
emotion.
see what you're
And
saying.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't realize that that's what I was doing though until you said it out loud.
Look
Mm-hmm.
at you. You're
Mm-hmm.
so
I know.
sophisticated.
I
No, but
think
like
I
it's
think it was.
okay. So like instead of flying off the handle, you're like, let me
Mhm.
just
Yeah.
take it all in.
I think
Yeah.
it was an Eastern guru named Thich Nhat Hanh. I don't know if you've ever heard of him, who said that
No.
it's not possible to have a problem in the present moment. Now that's profound. Think about
Wait, I
that.
gotta write that down.
It's not possible to have a problem in the present moment. Now, how do we unpack that?
Wow.
What he's saying is, and they did some research on that the present moment is just what it is. And it's what okay, if I'm depressed, I'm not in the present moment. I'm thinking about what happened perhaps in the past. Or if I'm anxious, by definition, I'm having thoughts about what's going to happen in the future. So I'm really not present.
Interesting.
I mean, your life and my life right now is literally in this room, and the rest of it is all, the past is an abstraction and the future is an abstraction. It doesn't exist. The future always comes as now. There's
Hmm.
no such, actually there's no such thing as a future. It's merely an analytical thought. Think about it. It's an
Weird.
abstraction. The future never comes. It's always now. So
So
one of the ways of thinking about mental health is being in the moment and facing what's happening. The more present you are, and this sort of makes intuitive sense in terms of presence with people, when you can tell you're connected with people because they're present, and you can kind of sense that. But ideally, the more present one is, the less likely one is dealing with anxiety and depression and those kinds of things, because they've learned to attach themselves to the present moment. And the best way to do that is by breathing, because you can't not breathe in the present moment. It's not possible.
When we
Oh.
were
The breath grounds you
researching,
in the present. The breath will ground you.
when we were researching another topic, I was reading that anxiety has to do with worry about the future and depression has to do with worry about the past. Is that
Yes.
accurate?
Yes, we're literally having all those thoughts about what went on back there, or what might go on over here. And none of that is literally, that's not reality. Those are possibilities and hypotheticals. And the mind kind of is influenced by that, but it's not real. They're just thoughts, and I think that's part of the
they're not
wisdom
real.
of mindfulness, is that stuff isn't real. And I think that's the heartening part when we start to think about all this, is, okay, I'm having these thoughts, but they're just thoughts,
Yeah.
and they don't have to. And that can motivate someone, just that awareness to say, okay, I need to get out of that rabbit hole and focus on something different. They can shift their consciousness in real time from those depressive thoughts to, okay, let's get in the present
Wow.
moment. And mindfulness is taking you back and forth. You have these thoughts, you notice them, you bring your attention back to your breath. You have a thought, you'll have a feeling. So you're doing that over and over and over and over. And after you keep doing that over years of time, you start to get really good at it, where the interval between all these thoughts and distractions becomes less. And you notice that for 20 minutes, you can actually just focus on your breath and be totally present in real time doing that.
And you're not bored.
Well,
I think I'd be bored.
That's an excellent question. We think we need to be doing something. It's just about being. Yes, no, it actually is incredibly peaceful. Is it boring initially? Is it hard? Yes, because we don't want the thoughts, and we think that they're bad, and we think that they're not good for us, and we want those to be out. But by choicefully paying attention to them, we're learning that we're having those just as thoughts, that they no longer become the toxic thing that we think, and that eventually we can start focusing more on our breath. So in real time, when I become anxious, the first thing I think of is breathe, and that can take me right back into the present moment and away from that. And I might have to do that several times.
Yeah.
And you guys have been really good, so I haven't had any anxiety in this interview.
That's why I'd like to draw the focus all to me, so the guest feels very comfortable.
Really quick, you said the word, I don't know why I wrote it down, inflexible. Why did I write that word down?
Problems. One way to think about psychological problems are problems of psychological flexibility. The goal is to become more flexible.
Oh,
so when we're stuck and we're entrenched in a specific behavior, flexibility would be to either work on ways to feel differently, and more often than not to behave differently.
okay.
So you have to try, and this is sort of intuitive, and you have to try different behaviors, to try to find out what's gonna work. So
is it kind of okay to say that people who are depressed are inflexible?
yes. I mean, if someone is on the couch, and I've had a client that several clients over the years that weren't actually able to get out of bed. Well, it's one problem that they're depressed, but it's another problem that they're not going to work, that they're not interacting with their family, so the depression is sort of the origin, but it grows into these bigger pieces. So when back in the day, we might have thought of helping them feel better so they can start doing these things, but now it's more, can they have some of that and behave their way at least partially out of that? by getting engaged in behavior that they need to engage in. That's
Gotcha.
important to them. So that's
Yeah.
where the inspiration of the therapist kind of comes in. Let's talk about what you're going to do this week, and let's come up with a specific agenda where you're going to behave in ways where this depression isn't going to get any worse. It's, if anything, it's going to get better because you're going to do things that are important to you, and we identify those. And so the
Gotcha.
behavior becomes a critical piece to all of that.
Wow.
And the mindfulness is one aspect of it in terms of the, you know, getting in touch with the interior, but you have to, you can't just land there. You have to behave your way out of that too.
Yeah.
Mm.
Behave your way out of it. Good
Yeah.
sentence there. Yeah.
So
Well, thank you so much. You were so knowledgeable, and we could listen to you talk for a long time.
Thank
That
you so
voice
much for
is,
answering our questions. And
oh, my
yes.
pleasure. My
Yeah.
pleasure. If you'd like to do it again, let me know anytime. Just give me a topic and we can do it
Oh,
again.
I have a couple. Don't you worry.
I want to do this.
Please. So,
All right. Well, thanks again. And we'll put your website in our show notes, right? Kamna?
Yes.
Yep.
okay.
Put your website in the show notes. Anything else you want us to put in the notes?
No, I'm good. We're talking
Okay.
about her. Yeah.
No,
I'm
you.
good. I enjoyed it. Thank you. It's been a lot of fun, and I hope it was entertaining. I hope the listeners liked it.
Good. All right.
Oh,
Thank
I'm
you.
sure.
Look forward to doing another one sometime.
Take care.
Bye.
Yeah.